All right, it has been way too long since my last video, but it's finally time to install a door. And the reason why it took so long is because I was polishing the doors, wet sanding and polishing the doors, and I may have gone through the clear coat. So I had to respray that and let it cure and then re-wet sand and polish. And I took a few days where I just didn't look at it. So it took me a while, but it's finally time to get one of the doors put on. The other door, I may have to re-clear it. I mean, I'm just having a hard time getting it to polish. I don't know, it's got some weird stuff with it. I'm not sure if it went through the clear or not. But one of the doors is ready to go on. However, before I do that though, I think it'd be easier to get these inside pieces put in. If I can find, oh, there they are. These pieces right here. I think it'd be easier to put these in first. They actually fit pretty well. It's just a matter of a little bit of glue back here and putting them in. I don't think I want to use super glue because where they have to go in, I'm afraid I might make a mess of it. I'm actually thinking about maybe using some double stick tape on the top here, in here, maybe. Yeah, I'll go ahead and get both of those put in. And then the next step will be to attach this to the door and then start fitting that door in place. So let me get those in. Again, there's nothing special about those. Like I said, it's just slipping them in. I don't even know yet if I'm going to use glue or double stick tape, but I'll probably just put a piece of double stick tape here and one here and press it in place and see how that holds. So we'll see how that works, but I'll get back to you in just a second. I'll get this out of the way so we can focus on putting one of those door panels back together. All right, so I got one door and the inside on, and again, screw here, screws here, and screw here. And one issue that I have because of, well, not that. Why is that not going down now? There it goes. It's not the best. I would recommend that you actually move it by the window itself and not by the crank. I mean, the crank works, but it's just such a skinny shaft. If it jams up anywhere, you risk breaking that. So it does work. It's just a little bit, yeah. Fortunately, it's not something you're going to be playing with every day. Anyways, one issue I had with the way I did the leather was the area there that the door crank is supposed to, the door latch, I guess, supposed to go in. Well, that doesn't fit anymore. So I have to extend this. So the way I'm doing that is I cut off a piece of scrap sprue from the parts tree, and I drilled it with the same hole that is in that one to go over the metal shaft. And I didn't want to just like glue it on because it would easily break off. So what I did was in the extension piece here, I cut a slot and I cut that so it would fit in this way. And it's not perfect, but it is close enough. And I will solvent weld them together. Now to make sure they stay straight, this is the drill that I used. I'll put this on. And right now this is a little bit too big in diameter, but what I can do is I can sand that down to fit better later. And that should go in there. All right. So the drill bit will hold them in the correct alignment, theoretically. And then I can solvent weld in there, and whatever gaps are left, I'll just fill in with some CA. So take the solvent. I'll go ahead and pop that off for now. And I've noticed that this particular plastic that this kit is made out of, the solvent works. It just seems to take a little bit more Again, that's just my own experience. Whether that's right or wrong, I don't know. But just make sure I get plenty in there. So those will bond together. Put a nice squeeze on it. And I will let that set for a few hours just to give that plastic time to soften and rebond. And you know, I don't remember if I showed you guys this in a previous video or not. I did it once, and I actually went to put it onto the door, and it was just a tiny bit too short. It would go on a little bit, but as soon as you would go to, well, that would be hard up against the leather. And as soon as you went to unlatch it, it would just kind of come loose. So it was just barely engaging onto the shaft. So I'm just making it a little bit longer. So again, once that's set, I'll have to file that to the right length and rounder so it'll fit in the hole flat. And once that's on, I will then attach the metal door release latch here. And then this is ready to go onto the car. So once those are on, and they just press on. Now I would highly recommend you take some masking tape or just some protective thing to put on there when you press that handle on so you don't damage the paint. But other than that, it should just be a press fit on. And yeah, I'll show you what that looks like when it's done, and then we will finally attach the door to the car. All right, so as you can see, the door is in. And, you know, it's been the plan since I started working on this, or since I realized how bad the doors fit. It's always been the plan, and I think I showed you this way back a long time ago, how, you know, there's supposed to be like a slot right here, and a slot here for the hinges to slide into. Well, I cut that outer piece off so there's no longer a slot, because the hinges just didn't fit in the slot. So it's always been my plan to just put the door in with some epoxy. I actually use JB Weld to go here and here to just kind of bond those hinges in, and then open the door after that sets and drill in and put a screw in there. And that's always been the plan. And that worked out pretty well. Now remember, I was concerned about the extra thickness of the leather, preventing the door from closing here. That wasn't a problem. But I did have a problem back here. So let me pop the door open, and you can see I got the handle on. And again, it's just tapping it onto the shaft. Again, I put a piece of poster board between the handle and the door so that it wouldn't damage the paint. So when you rotate the handle, it opens the catch, and then the door can open. So let me get a light in here. Got my free Harbor Freight. My free Harbor Freight light. So the leather was actually contacting here. Now the door would still close, but it would be really tight. So I went in with a Dremel tool and a little wheel here. And sorry for moving the camera around so much. Just lightly removed a little bit of material here so the leather wouldn't touch on it too bad. So now I have to go back in and touch that up. And you can see here that the JB Weld, it actually went around, it kind of wrapped around, it oozed around the hinge and kind of locked that hinge in pretty nicely. I don't need a screw in there now. That door is not coming off. So I don't need to drill in and put a screw. Now, when I put the door on, I put a piece of masking tape around this edge because I was afraid of the epoxy oozing through and gluing it onto that edge, which I'm glad I did because as you can see right there, it actually went through and touched the tape. So that would have epoxied the door shut. So make sure you tape up anywhere that you don't want epoxy. And also when I put the epoxy in there, the JB Weld, I put the bulk of it more inboard to let it ooze outboard. I didn't want any outboard and then ooze out and make a mess, if that makes any sense at all. So I put the bulk of it inboard because I didn't want a mess oozing out. And it actually, that worked pretty well. It locked it in pretty well. Yeah, that was, my heart just stopped there for half a second. That would have been bad. Now when you're closing the door,
you've got the door latch. I don't know how well we're going to see that, but the door latch sticking out, that will hit the edge of the car body and damage the paint. So you got to be careful when you're closing it. You have to push the latch so that you can then close the door without hurting the paint. All right. It's really kind of a hokey. Yeah, there it goes. It was not on the stand very well. I've got that. Got a little 3D plastic stand holding it up. It wasn't locked onto that very well. It's kind of a hokey mechanism, the way that works. We'll show you something with that here in just a little bit later. I also put a piece of tape here so that it wouldn't ooze out and get onto that. But again, I didn't put enough in for it to ooze out and make a mess. So I got lucky and got just the right amount in. So I'm going to have to touch up the paint on the inside. That shouldn't be a big deal. I'll wait till the other door is on and touch it all up at the same time. Let me show you one thing with the door here. I'm going to get the camera set down somewhere. And I'll show you something with the door. So again, here's the other door, and I'm having issues getting that paint polished up. I've got a weird, like a line. I don't know what that is, like a ghost line or something here. So I have to do some more polishing right in here before I'm ready to put this door on. But again, you want to put tape along here so that the epoxy doesn't ooze through and bond it on there. I scuffed that up a little bit with 80 grit just so the epoxy would stick better. But with the door latch, what I'm going to have to do with this one, that does not contact here very well at all. Let me get a pointer. That here, that part of the latch has little edges folded down that touch the edge of that cam that push it open and closed. That just doesn't work very well. What can happen is if the latch moves up a little bit, it can actually, this one's not doing it, but it can actually come out too far. So what I did on the other door, and I'll probably do it on this one just to make sure, is I put in a little piece of plastic, bonded on, is that going to focus better? Focus. I put in a little piece of plastic bonded on here that went over that edge of the latch that keeps that latch back about that far. So it can't come out too far. Because again, if it comes out too far, it's spring-loaded out. If it comes out too far, it can actually jump off of the cam and then the door latch just won't work. And I was actually having issues with the other door doing that. So again, I just put a little piece of plastic here to keep that from coming out too far. And I just touched that up with black so you wouldn't notice it. But yeah, all I got to do is polish this one up and then screw this one, wrong way, screw that one on. I already showed you that. And put the door latch handle here, and then this one's ready to bond in. So I'll go ahead and end this video here because I have no idea how long it's getting now. It's been, I've been working on this part for the past several weeks. The paint is killing me. I'm having the most difficult time getting these doors polished properly. They just don't want to polish right. They don't want to shine up right. I've had to redo the clear coat a couple of times. So I want to end this with... All right, so apparently even my camera is getting tired of hearing me ramble on because it just stopped. I was going on and it just cut out and stopped recording. So as I was saying, I'm going to end it here because it's probably getting too long. I'm just going to do the other door the same way I did this one. And then I'm going to move on to the fenders. The hood panels will be last. So next video hopefully will be sooner than the time it took me to get this one out. Next video, both doors should be done, and I'll be working on the fenders. So, I'm going to stop now. I guess that's it for now. So, as always, thanks for watching.